I think it was about a month ago, maybe a little bit more, that I got some folks on Twitter in terms of the NFL draft really upset with me. Like, they got legitimately caught up in their feelings when I dared imply that there wasn't that much difference between Quentin Nelson and Will Hernandez. Like, you would have thought I was saying Will Hernandez was better than Quentin Nelson, which clearly, if you can read, was not what I said. What I said was there wasn't that great of a difference. The difference wasn't quite as much as people made it out to be, and I believe this was happening right around the scouting combine, and it was more referencing to how people were underrating Will Hernandez as opposed to overrating Quentin Nelson. I just found it outstanding, amazing that so many people got so caught up. Like, I had people sending me video threads, cherry-picking plays from Quentin Nelson, trying to be like, oh yeah, because Will Hernandez could do this and Will Hernandez could do that, and then they cherry-pick his bad plays. But they fail, of course, to conveniently cherry-pick out the Quentin Nelson bad plays and the stud plays from Will Hernandez, but I'm just saying. Now, let me say this again, because some people can't read, don't have basic comprehension abilities. I said there wasn't that much of a difference between Quentin Nelson and Will Hernandez, which again was more speaking to Will Hernandez being underrated than anything in reference to Quentin Nelson's grade. As I said multiple times, as you could see in the grades on the scouting reports, there was still some difference. Quentin Nelson is still my number one rated offensive lineman in this draft. He is still my number one rated offensive player in this draft. Like, this is how stupid things can get sometimes. These fucking Notre Dame fans and these Quentin Nelson marks. I feel like I'm talking about professional wrestling now. These freaking fanboys and cucks coming out of the woodwork because I dared imply that Will Hernandez isn't that bad. That Will Hernandez isn't that far behind Quentin Nelson. Are you crazy? Jesus. It's unbelievable. You have to be able to see past the trees to get past your own bullshit to realize how ridiculous that whole thing was. But anyways, talking about Will Hernandez, I still stand by it. Yeah, there's some difference in the grading, but it's not that great. I do believe that Will Hernandez is a first-round talent, and in this draft, he's a top 20 talent. So sue me. But here's why. He's a beast, and he's not the tallest dude, but he's really short, squatty, compact built with this 340 frickin' pounds at 6'2". He's built like a freaking ox. He's got shorter arms, which is what keeps him playing inside at guard as opposed to tackle. Because I do believe that if he was 6'5" at 340 pounds and he had a little bit more length, you'd be thinking about him as an offensive tackle. And then a debate would really come between him and Nelson in terms of who you would prefer. His strength, while he's not a Quentin Nelson type of mauler, he's got some strength to him. He plays with some physicality. He plays with some violence, especially when on the move. I put in the notes in the scouting report in the description box that he's got more functional strength than true mauler strength. I think part of that comes into technique and leverage, and if he rectifies those, then he's every bit as strong as Quentin Nelson as a player, and I believe that to be true. He's a great pass blocker. To me, he's a little bit of a better pass blocker than Quentin Nelson is because he's got better feet, he's got better movement skills, he's able to move laterally in a short space. He can also anchor well. He can flat out stone people that are trying to bull rush him. He also has good instincts to be able to peel off of one block and go to the other when he's in a zone type of pass blocking situation. He does a generally good job of being able to recognize what his assignment is and what the most important guy is to block. He's actually a slightly better pass blocker than Quentin Nelson. It is true. Accept it. But that's a really nice trait for this guy to have. He's a decent athlete, as I mentioned. He's actually a pretty good athlete. He's good at getting out in the lead block situation. He's very good on pulls. He's improved his footwork and his overall agility in 2017. And I think some people, when he got to the combine, were surprised in the field drills just how fluid of an athlete he really was at 340 pounds. I mean, it was impressive stuff. and he combines that with decent instincts and awareness for the position, at times I'm a little concerned about his ability to recognize the snap and get off the snap, especially when he's right next to the snap. That's a little bit of a concern. But as I mentioned, he's able to peel off the initial block to pick up the blitzer. He recognizes his responsibility, the most important man, more often than not as a zone pass blocker. He knows where the rushers are coming from. He just has a general nice feel for the position. And I will say that he plays harder with more violence, more anger, more tenacity than Quentin Nelson does. And he does. He's a guy that consistently, time after time, plays up to and sometimes through the whistle. Like, Nelson is a mauler, especially in the running game, but Will Hernandez just plays nasty. Like, he's the type of guy, he reminds me almost of Olin Kreutz in a way, in terms of he will always play all the way through to the whistle, and sometimes through. Occasionally I can get him into trouble, but you never have to worry about the want to or the desire to here. He was a 4-year starter. He was durable. He was dependable. Lots to like about Hernandez. Where he comes up a little bit short right now compared to Nelson is he's not quite the same run blocker. Similar to Nelson, he can absolutely destroy guys on the second level. As I mentioned, his strength, I think, plays better once he gets to the second level and he's on the move. But he's not the type of drive blocker you'd expect at 340 pounds. He does have a bad tendency sometimes to just kind of lock up, engage, and then just kind of sit there. Some of that's due to lack of length. I think more of it's due to mediocre hand usage and lack of overall technique. So he's not as overpowering in the run game as you would like. So the funny thing is, he probably right now, based off of the type of player he is, fits better for a zone blocking type of running scheme inside than he does a power running scheme on the inside. As I mentioned too, his hand usage, his hands get wide, they can get off the mark, they're kind of all over the place. With the lack of length, he has to tend to allow the defender to get close to him in order to be effective, which against longer interior linemen could be a problem. He needs to chicken fight better with his hands too, because after the initial engagement and the defender is able to get off or swipe his hands away, he doesn't really set, readjust, and reposition very well with his hands. He doesn't refire through as much as you might like. For a guy that is as functionally strong at 340 pounds, you would like to see a little more fight and tenacity in terms of his hands. He can also struggle a little bit in leverage, in part due to the lack of length, in large part due to a less than ideal hand usage, and sometimes just kind of getting stuck in place with his lower body. Sometimes he can get a little bit off balance too. Not a huge issue all the time, but it does manifest from time to time. When I think about him in terms of NFL comparison, I know Steve Smith during the Combine, when asked about Richie Incognito, said, nah, I think he's better than that. I think he's like Marshall Yanda. I don't know if I'll go quite as far as Marshall Yanda. I can go as far as Richie Incognito. The build is similar. The play style is very similar. The nastiness is similar. Hopefully some of the other stuff isn't as similar. But Will Hernandez is a guy to me that should be a future Pro Bowl or potentially several Pro Bowls in his NFL career. He's my number 3 overall rated offensive lineman in this class. I've got a 90.0 grade on him. Yes, it's 3 points below Quentin Nelson, so there is a difference. But again, the difference is not that great. And if he improves on his technique, it is going to manifest in terms of playing up to his functional strength. It will give him more mauler strength. He will improve as a run blocker big time and be a more overpowering run blocker. And then truly, there's not going to be much of a difference. And at that point in time, some teams might prefer Will Hernandez because he can move with his feet better and he plays with a little bit more nastiness on a more consistent basis. Don't shoot the messenger. I'm just saying. But Hernandez is the real deal. He should be a first-round pick. Frankly, to me, he should be starting to be considered as early as the Ravens at pick 16. But if he goes much lower than pick 20, there's something wrong with the process here, because he's one of the more surefire bets in this draft class to me, and he will be a productive interior lineman for a long time in the league.